It is, in essence, one of the oldest, or possibly the oldest, of the 6 major Orthodox Hindu philosophies. Vashishka started, of course, with the Vashishka Sutras. Vashesh meaning particular, either referring to its particles theory, which we'll get to later, or it's a theory of particular force having particular outcome, which, by the way, thousands of years earlier, at least over 1,000 years earlier than Newton, is still mirroring Newton's laws, which is a very interesting topic. But that is actually a less important part of Vashishka. The core part of Vashishka is 2 parts. One, it only accepts 2 types of epistemology, that being perception and inference. And 2, it does in fact accept the Vedas as authoritative. Now, there's debate, of course, about how these 2 things align, but regardless, Vashishka does. Those 2 types of perception, where I will get more in depth into, perception is in essence the experiencing of something for the individual knows what it is experiencing. Inference, they give the common example, of course, given is smoke by a fire, which again is mirrored in at least Samkhya Sutras, another major Hindu philosophy, around 1,000 years earlier than Thomas Aquinas, and still the same exact reference is used by Thomas Aquinas, as you can know that a fire is present by its smoke. Vashishka is unique in that it only accepts these 2, which gives rise to, of course, its atomism, which I will get into. Its atomism is quite distinct from other types of atomism, at least in the West, that of, for example, the Democritus' theories, because it has 9 atoms. And these atoms are not exactly necessarily particles as we think of them, as material elements. 4 of them are the same 4 that are present in the West, but then the rest 5 are somewhat different. Time and space are both considered atomic. In addition to this, you have ether, which is considered atomic, and the 2 most interesting, mind, which is also considered atomic, and atma, which is also considered atomic. If you don't know what atma is, then I have other videos explaining the concept of atma and why it logically cannot come from matter. Now, this is a slightly different theory. Well, rather, it has to be inherent to matter if it does. Vashishka adapts to this, another atom. Vashishka became somewhat important. It influenced certain philosophies such as Jaina, Samkhya, which is, Vashishka is actually mentioned in the modern version of the Samkhya Sutras. There's some debate about whether this is the original, though, but I don't plan to get into that. But at least is older than 300 BC, as this is the essentially latest date of their current version of the Samkhya Sutras. So it's quite old. Likely it influenced, if you see my video about Democritus, Pythagoras, and Pyrrho, it likely influenced Western atomism. And it also, of course, influenced Buddhism, Jaina, and Ajivik, the 3 most prominent hetero-orthodox theories, and also Sharvak too, by essentially providing a framework for which material laws can be explained. Much of the physics, if you can call it that, which I will, and I think it's justified too, of ancient India were based off of his theories. I believe a good example of this would be the Surya Siddhantam. Although much of Indian medicine was based off of Samkhya, there were sects that were based off of Vashishka too.